This is extremely serious. Aldama's testimony has driven Pedro Sánchez crazy, and he orders the prosecutor's office not to seek a reduced prison sentence so that Aldama goes to jail. Let's begin. Hello everyone, and welcome to a new special, urgent and very important edition of Precautionary Measures with Miguel Ángel Pérez. The first thing I have to tell you, since I tell you everything, is that this video was not originally planned. I had already shared with you some statements from the trial sessions that we are exclusively covering here on Precautionary Measures with Miguel Ángel Pérez from all the sessions of the Coldo case trial, and we have received such serious information that I had to make this video, so stay until the end. Because you're going to be amazed by what's happening these days, by what Victor de Aldama's testimony in the Coldo case trial has caused in Pedro Sánchez's government. Pay close attention because Pedro Sánchez has given orders to the prosecutor's office, all of them against the businessman Victor de Aldama. Let's share this information as always, but remember to subscribe to the Medidas Cautelares channel with Miguel Ángel Pérez. We've already surpassed 128,000 subscribers. Thank you all very much for your effort, for your encouragement, and for being there every day. And now let's share this very serious information. Well, here you have Victor de Aldama during his statement. Let's remember the summary I made of his statement at the end of this video in the description. You will be able to see in a small box the video of his court appearance that I summarized. And this statement by Victor de Aldama has driven Pedro Sánchez, the Prime Minister, crazy. He wants to go against Aldama. The statement by businessman Victor de Aldama during the Coldo case trial at the Supreme Court has driven Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez crazy. For this reason, the socialist government has urged the Attorney General Teresa Peramato to order the Chief Anti-Corruption Prosecutor Alejandro Luzón not to request a reduction of his prison sentence. In his court appearance last week, prepared with his lawyer José Antonio Choclán, Aldama denounced the alleged financing through Venezuela, as well as other possible crimes committed by Pedro Sánchez himself and his wife, Begoña Gómez, and ministers, former ministers, and other high-ranking officials such as María Jesús Montero, Nadia Calviño, Ángel Víctor Torres, Francina Armengol, or José Luis Ábalos. Precisely this Monday, the trial of the scheme continues with the questioning of the last defendant, who is Ábalos himself. Muchísima atención a lo to say next. According to what Medidas Cautelares and Libertad Digital have learned, Aldama's statement has caused a real earthquake within the government and the PSOE. As a result, the pressure that the Attorney General, Teresa Peramato, had been exerting for weeks on the Chief Anti-Corruption Prosecutor, Alejandro Luzón, as revealed by Medidas Cautelares with Miguel Ángel Pérez, has turned into direct orders. Following instructions from the government, Peramato, who you already know, acts like another minister. She has urged Luzón, the Chief Anti-Corruption Prosecutor, to boycott the unwritten agreement he made with Aldama. And she wants to force him not to request the mitigating circumstance from the court in his final report. An ordinary or especially weighty mitigating circumstance, one that would keep Aldama out of prison? Luzón, as the Chief Anti-Corruption Prosecutor, cannot refuse to follow Peramato's orders since he is his superior, even if he doesn't agree, because the prosecutor's office is a hierarchical institution. If he doesn't follow the orders, the Chief Anti-Corruption Prosecutor could face disciplinary action. Let me remind you that the Public Prosecutor's Office requested 7 years in prison for Aldama in its indictment for the crimes of ongoing bribery and criminal organization. It should be said that here the Chief Anti-Corruption Prosecutor already requested 7 years in prison, which was the minimum that could be requested for those two crimes. Because obviously he was already taking into account Victor de Aldama's cooperation with the justice system. There is hope, there is hope. Legal sources we've consulted point out that even if the prosecutor's office or the other prosecuting parties don't request a reduction in the sentence for Aldama, considering that mitigating factor, whether it is qualified or highly qualified, for his remorse or cooperation with the justice system, the court, that is the panel of 7 Supreme Court judges, can indeed consider them on its own initiative if the proven facts in the trial justify it. Mitigating factors are circumstances that reduce criminal responsibility and benefit the defendant. The possible mitigating factor is not exclusively linked to whether the prosecution requests it, since these are circumstances favorable to the defendant. That is to say, we explain it even if none of the acusaciones solicitara qualified or highly qualified mitigating factors. For Victor de Aldama, after his statement, his remorse, and his cooperation with justice, the same court that is judging him, the 7 judges presided over by Andres Martinez Arrieta, could consider that mitigating factor, qualified or highly qualified. And if the court recognizes it, even if the anti-corruption prosecutor or other prosecuting parties, such as the popular prosecution, do not request it, then Aldama would have his prison sentence reduced and would not go to jail. So everything will depend on the final decision of the court. Aldama's testimony before the Supreme Court last week was very firm, convincing, and descriptive, and it serves to confirm, they say, many of the statements made during the trial. The businessman's statement has become the glue of the Coldo corruption scheme at trial and has turned the signs of criminal conduct in the case against Ábalos and Coldo into certainties. Aldama's testimony in itself already constitutes evidence against Ábalos and Coldo, which can be compared with their own testimonies, those of the former minister and the former advisor. His testimony is key to clarifying other corruption schemes that affect the government and the PSOE, such as the hydrocarbon scheme, the CEPI scheme, the Plus Ultra case, or the illegal financing of the mentioned political party. Look, that's how important Victor de Aldama's testimony is. It's not just this trial about the Coldo scheme, but in all the corruption schemes that are currently open against Pedro Sánchez's government and against the Socialist Party. And that's why Sánchez, Moncloa, and the government know it. And they order the chief prosecutor, the Attorney General, Teresa Peramato, to block that request for a sentence that Alejandro Luzón wanted to make so that Aldama doesn't go to prison. What they want to provoke is for Aldama to get angry with the prosecutor's office and break that cooperation agreement in all those cases. And that way Pedro Sánchez, his wife, his party, his ministers, his former ministers, his president of Congress, all get off scot-free. This is the evil plan they're hatching from within the government, from Moncloa, from Pedro Sánchez's Socialist Party. I have to remind you so you don't think that this reduction in the requested prison sentence for Aldama with those mitigating factors was just something random. During his statement at the preliminary hearing on the Coldo case, which took place in February, do you remember? Because the trial proceedings started in April. But the thing is, back in February, at that preliminary hearing, they were already studying the preliminary issues. Chief Anti-Corruption Prosecutor Alejandro Luzón referred to a possible reduction in the sentence request for Aldama in these terms. And this was exactly what the Chief Anti-Corruption Prosecutor Alejandro Luzón said at that preliminary hearing. That reward, that lesser sentence, is what the Criminal Code requires in Article 21. The discussion may be about whether that cooperation is quantified or if it qualifies as a particularly weighty mitigating factor or not. But beforehand, of course, before the trial was held, this was not appropriate. For this reason, the Anti-Corruption Office had to study whether Aldama's cooperation with justice constitutes a mitigating factor, reducing the requested sentence by 1 level, or an especially strong one, lowering the sentence request by up to 2 degrees. If the prosecution reduces the sentence request by only 1 degree for the crimes of criminal organization and continued offense of bribery, neither of the 2 crimes would be punished with more than 2 years, and therefore Aldama would not go to prison. If the Anti-Corruption Office reduces it by 2 degrees, even both crimes together may not exceed 2 years. Now, Peramato orders this possibility to be torpedoed, following Sánchez's wishes and acting like a political commissar, not like an attorney general. And that's how things stand. This is the information we have up to this moment. And what is going to happen is hard to predict. I have confirmation that Peramato has already given orders to the prosecutor, Chief Anti-Corruption Prosecutor Alejandro Luzón, who in his closing arguments in the trial of the scheme. Coldo, which resumes this Monday, does not request a reduction of the prison sentence for Aldama. He does not consider that mitigating factor or the especially strong version of it, which, if the court accepts it, it would prevent Aldama from going to prison. But, as I have also told you during this video, the court made up of those 7 justices of the Supreme Court can consider the mitigating factor on its own, qualified or highly qualified, so that Aldama's cooperation with justice and repentance are recognized and he avoids going to prison. We'll see what happens. But right now, if I had to bet, I see it as very, very unlikely that the prosecution will ask for that qualified or highly qualified mitigating factor. We'll see what Luzon decides. But we hope that regardless of that, the court can ultimately apply that mitigating factor to Aldama for his cooperation with justice, because of his absolutely convincing, devastating testimony the other day, which implicates Pedro Sánchez, his wife, the Socialist Party, and all the ministers. And that's why he's playing his last cards. Sánchez, through the Attorney General, is trying to neutralize Aldama because Aldama's testimony is brutal. It's decisive not only for the Coldo plot trial, but for all the corruption schemes that implicate the government and Pedro Sánchez himself. And they know that, and what they want is to discredit Aldama, and therefore that the request for a prison sentence from the prosecutor's office, it does not consider his cooperation with justice, because in this way it would be acknowledging Aldama was right and giving him credibility. And that's why these orders are being given. We will see what happens, and of course we will tell you everything that happens here on Medidas Cautelares with Miguel Ángel Pérez. That's it for this edition of Medidas Cautelares with Miguel Ángel Pérez. I hope you enjoyed it. I know this information is serious, but no other media outlet is reporting it. You're hearing it here on Medidas Cautelares with Miguel Ángel Pérez. You already know that you can become members like the chosen ones for less than €3 a month, or like the supreme ones for less than €7 a month. We have new members, so we're going to dedicate today's show to our new member, whose name is Jesus Hurtado. So this one's for you, Jesus. Thank you so much for your support, for being there, and also to everyone who makes financial contributions through Bizum at 627-556-370. You already know that you can share this video with anyone you want and leave your comments and opinions. And by the way, I know you love the videos about the trial, about the scheme, with what we're uploading exclusively on this channel. And I'm a big fan of all of you, because you keep leaving your comments about what the witnesses are saying, the actions of the judges, the prosecutor, and so on. And I'm also a big fan because you're basically doing a live commentary through your opinions, even leaving the minute mark of the video for that statement, where one person says something, another responds. Honestly, you guys are amazing. Thank you all so much for being who you are and for being so involved in this great community. This is Medidas Cautelares with Miguel Ángel Pérez, and most importantly, as I always say, information is power. Make sure everyone gets it. See you soon.